Welcome everyone to Star Trek. Oh, we've got funny. I'm used to someone saying something hilarious. We sort of just pre-roll into it. I'm not used to
Us?
the blind,
Funny? No,
the
never.
blind opener of us just kind of going, "Hi, welcome to Star Trek Trek Trek. Oh, we're going to review some shit." Anyway, welcome to Star Trek Trek Trek, our ongoing review of Star Trek episodes. We are here reviewing season 2 of Strange New Worlds, the Lost in Translation Uhura Kirk-focused episode. Yes, Kirk is back. I'm joined by ever faithful Stars Zangatas, and Cranky is joining us this week, moderator and just all-round awesome person of our community.
He's our favourite.
Definitely.
Don't tell everyone else though.
We're telling everyone now. Yeah, we're here to review and talk about Lost in Translation, which we just watched. Go and look at our watch along if you want to come and join us on that. Guys, this episode was a bit of an all-rounder for everyone. I mean, the thing that surprised me was like, okay, this is going to be an Uhura episode, and Kirk's going to be here as well. The real Kirk. Finally, we get Lieutenant Kirk come in, and we get to see what Paul Wesley's metal is made of. But actually, we got Biff, Spock, and Chapel. We got some Una and Pellier. We got a tiny bit of La'an in there as well, and no Ortegas, which because fuck us, we can't get a good Ortegas episode.
We had she was like a pretty decent focus in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Anyway,
don't take your foot off the gas.
Oh no. So, what do we think? This episode, overall opinions. Oh, and we got some Hemmer. We got Hemmer.
All about Hemmer. So I thought it was a bit weird when I put it on, and then there was a load of like Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray, but then I realised I put in the wrong Lost in Translation.
I made that exact same joke at the start of the watch. Like, yes, we're here to watch Lost in Translation. Oh wait, no, not the 2003 film. No.
Guess what? I wasn't here, so it's completely fresh and original joke.
It's a different video. It's fine.
Yeah. So I think starting off, this is a very classic episode. Like we were talking about episode 4, I think the one on Rigel 7,
yes,
and how that was a very classic TNG TOS style episode. This is very TNG style. Like this is Night Terrors, this is Eye of the Beholder.
Yeah, I was going to say Eye of the Beholder. Yeah.
We have a subspacey mystery that we need to solve with enough clues that it's fairly obvious if you know your Star Trek what's going to happen. But if Strange New Worlds is your first Star Trek, then this is your first time experiencing this plot structure, and it will be a bit more of a surprise. That being said, so when you have a very standard plot structure, where I was like, oh, are there going to be aliens in the
yeah, you saw it coming a mile away.
That's always going to be the way, yeah. And at that point, it becomes okay. What is the strength of the character development that's going on here? And I thought that a lot of the character development that went on here was really, really strong, and back when they first kind of showed off Uhura in episode 2 of season 1 with the comet, and they were talking about her tragic backstory, and I remember a lot of people were like, why does everyone in Starfleet have to have a tragic backstory? Why does everyone have to have dead parents or a dead brother or this or that?
If you've not had some tragic backstory, you can't serve as ensign. Like, it just doesn't happen. You've got to be chief petty officer.
And if you don't have one will be assigned to you right away.
Yes. If Wesley's Academy induction, they will PTSD you until you serve.
Absolutely. And everyone was saying, oh, does it really need to be a tragic backstory? Why can't Uhura come from a place of like happiness and life? And it's like, I saw that criticism, but the fact that, season 2, episode 6 now, we've had 3 or 4 episodes just talking about Uhura's process with grief and examining how that looks over a long period of time. If you think about TNG, someone dies and you feel bad about it, and then they forget about it next episode. Like, Worf felt pretty bad about Sito Jackson. Did he ever say her name ever again after that one episode in TNG? No, he never did. Yeah, that's the other thing. And I really appreciated that, like, yes, they made that decision to have a tragic backstory for Uhura, and then they have committed to it and stuck to it, and they are working with it, and it is a constant part of her life. It doesn't define her, but it's a big part of her journey. And I feel like it's a interesting decision for a character who is so alive and vivacious and so driven to enjoy her life that her experience with Starfleet is kind of driven by tragedy. And I feel like that's actually a relatively smart decision from a writing perspective. So I was really happy that they've kind of taken this tack and stuck to it.
I kind of hope that before Strange New Worlds ends, they'll put all that in a box somehow, and she's over it. She's happy Uhura, ready for the next the original series.
I think we're working towards that. I think, like, because we've had she's had 2 things to overcome, and like The first one is the death of Hemmer, which was worked on a little bit here. She sort of had a bit of grief negotiation here. And the other one is the death of her parents, which also kind of a bit here, but not really expanded. I think when we saw the trailer for this episode and we saw the shuttle crash, we thought, oh no, she's going to relive it and there's going to be a whole episode based on her parents. But it kind of wasn't that. That was used as a catalyst for translating like what the aliens' intentions were, which was an interesting take. Because what more can you say than her parents died in the shuttle accident, you know, and her I believe they said her brother as well.
I believe her brother as well. Yeah.
I think they do need to revisit that story though to cap it off in her mind, because it's still an open thing in her mind. Obviously, she's thinking about it and it's distressing her.
Yeah, because in this episode, I think it's more a case of like we need to get her ready to address it at all, because she even says, "I can't look at pictures of them. I can't talk about it with anyone because every time I do, I just start to lock up." And here she's able to actually look at pictures, and I think maybe, especially if I suspect we might be getting some cyborg involvement in the next few episodes, like I would love for this to be her pain that she deals with, and that, you know, in a fucked up way, it helps her progress. Like I'm always a big fan of, you know, like through adversity you triumph. That's a very Star Trek thing. But I definitely don't think this is the end of. Like, you know, this has been going for 2 seasons now, like a season and a half, rather. I don't think they're going to just suddenly drop it and she's fine. I think they're going to continue to develop it and work with it.
There's going to be an episode where she has to confront it, and at the end, the last 2 or 3 seconds of the episode are going to be her looking at a picture of her family in her quarters on the side.
Yeah,
smiling,
I think that'd
happy.
Be nice.
She's confronted it. They're there now. They're part of her life now.
There'll be a mental image of her mother that comes up to her and says, "Let me teach you this fan dance, and you can only do it in the moonlight."
Only in the moonlight.
Yes, whilst singing. Yeah, so this was a good poignant Uhura episode. Yes, I mean, all credit to Celia Gooding in this episode. She was utterly amazing. Like, and she has proven to be like. God bless Nichelle Nichols. She is amazing in herself and such an inspiring actor and in such an inspiring character at the right time for progressive movements. But TOS never gave her much chance to show her acting chops. I feel like this is Celia doing absolutely amazing justice to the Uhura character because she rocks. She's just so good. She really is.
Yeah, no, the scene that she has with Kirk where she's talking about, you know, the inability to even look at pictures of them, and then he gives his amazing speech. It's like, that's 2 incredibly talented performers in a room just talking about grief and how you deal with it. And it's like, a lot of the time, that's what makes the bonding so good. And if you think about it, I remember reading a piece that said that even though the bonding is, like, you know, season 3 of TNG, it's arguably one of the foundations for modern Trek as we know it. Because season 1 and season 2 of TNG, you're getting there, but then season 3 is a very mature, like, mediation on, you know, like Jeremy Astor and Marla Astor, and like that whole thing is a very mature. We're just going to sit down and talk about death for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
like
a similar theme. Yeah, you're right,
and how it
actually,
affects people. Yeah. And they were talking about how with Michael Piller and like you know, that writing room, how that was such a transformative thing from the, you know, Maurice Hurley and the Gene Roddenberry school of, we're just going to do weird space adventures with a lot of sex in them. And so, no, that was a very mature thesis, and this is kind of the natural evolution of that point, and getting to see those two just act off each other is so much fun.
I think like a testament to how good any actor is if you can have 2 people in the room talking about anything and you're gripped. Like, I always go back to Pulp Fiction when you've got Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta in the car talking about burgers. Literally, they're having an idle conversation about the Royale with cheese. And it's such a gripping conversation. You glue the whole way through because it's funny and it's a conversation about nothing, but because of the strength of the actors, it's so good. And I feel like that's kind of the energy that a lot of the Strange New World cast bring here. Like the conversation between Chapel and Spock about sort of playing chess and talking about quantum relationships is
very
the same
charged,
kind of thing. It's like you're engrossed in it because the actors are giving the right energy and putting everything to it, which I think is missed in, say, sort of more... like people say like, oh, well, I want the 26 episode seasons back on. You think like there are still shows that do that now, and you watch them now and a lot of it's just like we're talking from one point to another. They're not investing the time that the actors can give, and this absolutely does respect the actors' time and the dialogue's time in a very good way, and it's gripping.
Yeah, and it's I think that's part of the reason why. So we're going to one of the flaws of this episode is that we aren't getting a lot of Una in season 1 and season 2. We want more Una,
which we do get a fair bit this episode. She does have a little bit, yeah. But sorry, go on.
A little bit, but the thing is that like part of the reason we're clamoring for more Una and for more Ortegas is because these are very experienced and talented performers who every time they get a chance to show what they can do, we have a great time with it. So we just want more and more and more of them. Like I don't think there's anyone on the Strange New Worlds cast where I look at them and I go, I could do with less of you. I'm only ever going, I want more of this character and more of that character.
Although let's hear Cranky's opinions on Pelia.
Now the character in general, I have no issues with. It's a decent character and it fits in. I don't know. It's just that voice.
Is it the accent? I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about the accent is hard to get into.
Not necessarily. The accent. It's hard to understand a few of the things she says, but it's the whispering and the sort of the croakiness that makes it awkward and hard. That's what gets me. You get the loud explosions and all the fancy noises that are going on, and then she's whispering quietly. And you can't hear her.
I mean, that could be related to a sound. I mean,
that's also a bit of an issue with Mbenga because of the way that he's putting on Mbenga's accent.
Yeah. He also has a very strong accent for, and I'll say this gently, but anglicised people such as us, our ears are not tuned to that accent. That is.
And I do understand that. For many people, I speak with an accent. I speak with a very country...
you're very West Country, aren't you? Yeah,
yeah, a very country accent.
Yeah. But speaking of Pelia and Una, let's go to that conversation because we do have a little bit of Una development here because I think a lot of people's complaints with Una are we get like one episode from season 1 and we get one episode from season 1 and we don't get a whole lot else, and that is a shame because I think of all the legacy characters, she is the one we want to know more about, and we are being drip fed things here, and we get more of her with her interaction with Pelia here, which is nice, but it does sort of paint her more as a stick in the mud, and it is nice to see that relationship develop with Pelia in the end, sort of just going like, oh yeah, I gave you a C, you were crap. Like, I kind of love that moment when she turned around and goes like, oh, you were one of my best students. No, you just want to hear that, you're shit.
That's what she said about Hema, yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's hilarious. Hema, yeah.
I absolutely don't believe that's true. I'm pretty sure Hema was probably one of our best students, but she said that just to make her go nuts. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
She said, I'm only saying that because he's dead. He was actually average.
He's so mid. I called him Lieutenant Mid in my head.
Then she said, look at where he got to.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice little life lesson as well. Like for people that sort of go through school, and in our country we have exams called GCSEs, and like people do their GCSEs, and like me, you do middling things, and then it just goes to show that after that point you can still do amazing things. I didn't. I'm still middling and terrible, but hey.
No. So one of my favorite things about Pike is a little character detail from season 2 of Discovery, and it's that he has a failing grade in astrophysics. And it's just a wonderfully humanizing thing, and hearing that Una also has a C in maintenance. But guess what? She has a C, Pike has a fail, but that bothers her more than Pike is bothered about his grade. And I feel like that's a really great illustration of the characters.
Una is Lisa Simpson, isn't she? All but playing the saxophone. She's the exact same character. Like, she's smug, she's pride, she's a little bit of arrogance in there, but she thinks she should be the best. Like, I can see that more.
Yeah,
my issue with the Una development, is
go for it.
When we do, like, we did get a little bit of Una in this episode, but it's based. She's developing another character. Her character's developing another character. It's not her. It's the focus isn't on her, even though we're getting a little bit of Una development.
You're spending more time on Pelia than Una herself. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
I feel like you do a pretty decent job of illustrating who they are by contrast, because Pelia is chaos, she's disorder, she's emotion, she's I'm going to do what I feel is right because of my gut instinct.
She's impulse.
Yes, exactly. And then it's it's McCoy versus Spock. It's the exact same conflict.
Yeah, kind of is.
Yeah. And Una is cold. She's logical. I am managerial. I am. You follow my instructions to the letter, and that is consistent with her characterization throughout Strange New Worlds and also in Discovery. Like when we meet her in Discovery season 2, she's like basically pulling in all these favors. She's the one that everyone goes to for get things in order, get people marching to their correct spaces, get me this ship ready by this date. She's very good at managerial tasks, and that's because she has a very strict timetable. And to be fair, I bet you, if you're not someone like Pelia, who is used to being queen of your own domain, I trust her guts. Yeah, it's a case of if you follow her, she's probably great to work with. She's probably very quick to hand out praise if you do a good job. Very good at making sure you know exactly what you need to be doing and when you need to be doing it by, and clear goals, which is important in a managerial sort of position. But to Pelia, she's like, "Oh, you're gonna fucking kill any kind of fun I'm gonna have on this ship, aren't you?" And it's like that's an easy conflict. And by showcasing that over a few different scenes, I feel like you get a much more idea of what she's like in a professional context, which is interesting. Like to think about what these characters are like on a professional basis, because if you think about it, this is a conflict that happens all the time on Star Trek Reddit, where they talk about whether or not Jellicoe or Riker was in the right in Chain of Command, and so often those conversations come down to whether or not you think Starfleet is a military or not, and like whether or not you think that Jellicoe's managerial style is like, and that's a really interesting conversation to have. So seeing it brought up in this context, I thought was interesting, and that using that to illustrate character. But to be fair, I have talked about in the past about how I'm very willing to read into characters and like infer my own sort of reading. So I can absolutely see why that might not have landed for people.
There's something in that. There is something in having a character with enough wiggle room that it can inspire everyone. Like you can see yourself in a character that is maybe not so one focused. Like I know some people look at Jellicoe and go, well, I can see my regimented self in there, but maybe I can see my more looser self in Riker, which is what makes Chain of Command such a good episode, because you're seeing two sides of a psyche, essentially, and that's why people criticize Star Trek Alien Races, because they tend to be very one focus around Klingons are around your honor, the Ferengi are around your capitalism, but it could also work in character archetypes as well, and in the story. So no, I can definitely see that. I can't forget which point I was going to move along to now. I thought about it and you completely distracted me. I'm not going to get onto Kirk yet. There's one more thing I want to get before we get to Kirk. And no, it's not that. I've already forgotten it.
While you're thinking about that, then
go on.
Pelia, is it Pelia? Pelia?
Pelia. Pelia. Pelia.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. I like the fact that they made out, like, obviously she's been on Earth a long time, she's been around humans a long time. They're showing that she understands humans and how they work, and she can push the right buttons and poke them in the right places, get the right reaction. I like that they're doing that a little bit. That's that kind of
work. She's got a little bit of that Guinan, I've been experiencing your race for so long that I now have the insight into your psyche. And so even though she comes across as very childish and very, I'm going to do things that annoy you because it's fun, there's always an underlying logic. Yeah, exactly. He knows what buttons to press that will push people in the right direction and what would be a dick move. Like, she says that thing about Hema to Uhura, and it's like, partly that's the case that I think she wants to kind of push her to, I'm going to be a catalyzing presence. I'm going to push you to be something a bit more different and a bit more independent. Because a lot of the time, for some people, especially if they're a bit more sort of like passive people, you need someone to push them by being like a polar opposite. They like push you away like a magnet type thing.
Like not just attraction, it seems like they're being a dick, but then the outcome that they're aiming for is for it to work out to work out good.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why I kind of enjoyed like the conversation she has with Una in the shuttlecraft, where it's like, I totally understand what you're doing, and I'm gonna let you work it out by having a go at me. But in the end, we all know what this is about actually, and there's that like quiet moment of understanding. And I want to call out again. I called this out last episode, and I have to say it again. I absolutely love that we've had multiple episodes of just female-led senior officers, and they are just talking about themselves and their relationships. And it's like the Bechdel test and all that lot is a bit of an outdated measure, but I still think of it every time. Yeah. It's the case of, are there two female characters who have a conversation in the story that is not about a man? And this one passes it with the flying colours because it's actually just
the whole series
Una and Pelia talking about themselves.
Does.
Yeah,
like.
Well, Strange New Worlds is doing a lot better job of it, because like last episode it was Una. It was Uhura, Ortegas, and Chapel in the shuttle, and they were just talking. They were talking about Spock, but there's also a case of we were talking about Ortegas' command style, and we're talking about the risk that Chapel wants to take, and all these different things. Like I love seeing that balance and a strong female cast. Like, this is such a good list of like female performers.
It goes back
the best like TNG.
There's a phrase from he is problematic. Joss Whedon, very problematic person. Pretty much blacklisted, but he did say one thing profound, which maybe is not so profound when you get the context, but someone says like, well, how do you write women? He goes, well, I don't write women, I just write people. And he just says like, you don't write women as women, or you don't write men as men, you just write people and let the script do the work, and like, okay, he ends up being a bit of a perv and a creep, but that does still stand as unfortunately that still does stand as an accurate statement. Like, the best way you can pass that Bechdel test is don't think about that kind of stuff, just treat them as characters that need motivation to move through a scene that isn't related to
I think it does require a bit of self-consciousness and self-awareness.
Maybe that is why he's overcompensating, but they are.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go, let's address the Shatner in the room and talk about, we have now seen the real Captain Kirk. Could he please beam over or stand up? Could he please beam up? There we go. That's the phrase.
Please beam up.
Please beam up. So we've finally seen Paul Wesley enacting a real Captain Kirk. Not an alternate reality, not a lost reality. No, this is actually the real Lieutenant Kirk. Now, First Officer of the Farragut, which I mentioned I don't have an issue with. He's the youngest First Officer in the fleet. That tracks. And he is now here helping people. Like, I like the pretense that Sam invited him over onto the ship to show him the ship. Sam gets pissy and leaves, and Kirk's just like, I got nothing better to do. Fuck it, I might as well just interfere.
To be fair, like if I had the opportunity, if I was a ambition-led officer like Kirk, and I had the opportunity to have swan around on the flagship for a while, I would absolutely spend that time in the bar making connections, because that's the smart career move.
I was wandering around just thinking, like, I'm going to blow this ship up in about 20 years.
So
lovely ship. Can't wait to crash it.
Yeah.
We're going to do things to the ship. You don't understand. So I love Paul Wesley, and I've been like an advocate. When I first saw him in Quality of Mercy, I was like, okay, I need to feel my way around it. A few more watches. But every time I've seen him since, I'm like, no, this was a good choice. And it's like, I can absolutely understand everyone's trepidation. Like, oh, you got the Vampire Diaries guy? Like, that doesn't seem like the kind of guy you get for James C. fucking Kirk. But especially this episode, I feel like completely sells like, no, they made absolutely the right choice. He has the charisma, he has the intelligence, he has that flirtatious edge that doesn't come across as creepy.
Smarm.
He has a bit of smarm.
Yeah. He
has that machismo a little bit when he's interacting. He has that little bit of, I'm going to be a fucking dick, but in like a fun way. He is a very multi-layered character. He makes sense as a human being, and you even get to see a bit of that vulnerability, which you often didn't get to see with Shatner, because Shatner was so often, I'm not going to allow myself to be vulnerable in certain ways. Like, the script says I have to be vulnerable here, so I have to be, but Wesley's very good at showcasing that in that conversation he has with Lon in the corridor about his dad, which is, the conversation he has with Sam about their father, and then the conversation he has with Lon about his father. That's a really interesting insight into his character. And just like with episode 5, where a lot of the 2009 movie informs like Spock's childhood, because it's essentially the same. What does Jim Kirk say about his father? Oh, he spent his entire life helping out other people and not being there for me.
Yeah.
What does Kelvin George Kirk do? Oh, he spent his entire life being there for other people and not being there for me because he died saving other people. Yeah, and it's really interesting seeing these two things running in parallel.
It's cool. It's really like I think I said about this on the watch through. It is, they have been so careful, and they've been right to be careful. Like, they've shown a lot of Kirk, and a lot of people. And I know there are some people that are still on the thing that saying like, well, we shouldn't be seeing Kirk at all, not this soon. But I think if they're going,
I was very against it.
No, and we were all trepidatious. Everyone was like, even after Quality of Mercy, I'm still just like, oh, do we need this to happen? But now I've seen what they've done and how they've done it, I'm kind of all for it, because Quality of Mercy, we got to see an alternate universe Kirk and introduce us gently to the character in a different way. We knew that this wasn't Kirk, this was a different version of Kirk, and okay, we get used to that. This gets us introduced into Paul Wesley as the character. Then we get Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow with La'an and another alternative Kirk, and we get to see a lot more of him. We get him to see the main driving of the plot. We get to see what what Paul Wesley's acting style is like with this version, and then finally we get the real Kirk. We get introduced to we're now familiar with Paul Wesley and his interpretation of this character, and now we get to see it in real. We've had the practice runs, we've had the lead up into it, and now we're not just being dropped with this guy says, "Oh hi," not like in a Chris Pine way, who has to prove himself straight from the off front by.
Which could be really intimidating. Yeah.
Which is really intimidating. But I mean, obviously, Chris Pine is great. I love Chris Pine's Kirk. It's really fun. But this is definitely done in a very clever way that we're introduced to it gradually in a kind of. We've gotten used to seeing this face for first, because faces are everything. Like when you're recasting someone, like we had with Uhura and Chapel, we're introduced to their face first. And now we've got their characters down. Now we have Kirk as a character and Paul Wesley as that character introduced to us. We now see the real Kirk, and he can now embellish some of the Kirkisms he's taken from his own performance and brought them alongside this now Prime Universe interpretation, and it works really well. I think it's really clever. I know other may disagree, and that's fine, but I think it's very clever, and he plays it so well. I think it's really good. I'm kind of like I am now all that people. I'm just like, maybe they could do TOS in about 5 years' time. Maybe I wouldn't be against that as much as I was a year ago, perhaps.
Yeah, Kirk's definitely working now. I was one of those people that when we first found out Kirk was going to be in Strange New Worlds, I was like,
everyone felt it. We were all just like, oh, do you really? Come on.
Yeah. But I mean, it was the time travel episode where they went back to Earth, La'an and Kirk. That one really, it set it for me, and it kind of went, okay, this guy kind of works. And this episode, he was really good. I enjoyed him. I don't know if I'd want to see a TOS. Yeah. I mean, like we said in the stream, if they can do like a prequel to TOS, maybe a little series.
For that. Yeah.
Yeah, where they show how Scotty gets on the Enterprise, they show how Sulu and Chekhov get on the Enterprise, and they all meet and they become friends. Because TOS starts obviously after the Cage. That's it. They're all a crew. Well, obviously not Chekhov, but the rest of them are a crew, and they've been together. So if they can do the little bit, just showing.
Like I said this during the watch along, but you see what they've done with Uhura and Chapel and even Kirk, in this series of expanded characters that were people that were just sitting, people who were sitting behind Shatner, Nimoy, and Kelly, for the whole 3 seasons, and see what they've done with
Lower
Uhura
Decks,
here.
TOS Lower Decks.
Yeah, exactly. But imagine we got this treatment with Sulu, with Chekhov, with somebody else. With Mitchell, Gary Mitchell.
Obviously, we need to see to see Deputy Chief Engineer DeSalle. Obviously,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the other characters. But
I want to pick up on a point that you made, Idle, which is that there's a thing I love to do with characters, which is introducing multiple versions of the character, separated by dimensions or by time or whatever, and it allows you to examine what is the essential truth of that person. Because there's obviously going to be a commonality to them, what are the things that are common to every version of this character? And by showing us all these different versions of Kirk, you go, okay, that's different, that's different, that's different. What's the commonality? And you start to go, oh, he's just a charming son of a bitch who thinks he knows who thinks he knows everything. And most of the time he does. And that's a charming thing, that it allows you to worm its way into your good graces, and you miss him when he dies, and you go, you know what, maybe he was right instead of Pike here. And so you kind of wear down your natural, I don't want to see Kirk, I'm here for Pike and everything, and you go, and it turns you from, I don't ever want to see a TOS prequel, I don't want to see anyone other than Shatner or Pine playing this character, to someone like Cranky being like, you know what, maybe there's room for your TOS thing. And it's the fact that they managed to work us all from, oh god, you're not doing Kirk, to this, is a sign that it's working. It's really, really smart. But
I'm interested to see what they do because in was the last episode where they went to the planet with they said about it's the 5-year mission, and it had been 5 years since they previously went to that planet.
I think they're on the
Rigel 7. I think that's episode 4.
So we're in the final year of their 5-year mission.
I think Pike has 2 5-year missions. I'm pretty sure he's had a couple of spells.
So I'll be interested to see what they do with this second fight. At the end of this season, that's going to be the end of their 5-year mission. what are they going to do with the second 5-year mission? How's that going to play out?
Yeah.
And how does it play into the original series? Because I think that's got to involve Pike and his accident and.
There is some stuff there. I think, like with the time crystals and Pike's event, what we've elaborated in season 1. I think they're gonna slip some very elaborate rug from under us with the whole menagerie situation and Pike's ultimate resolution. I think there's something going to happen there. But anyway, regardless, Kirk is Paul Wesley's Kirk has definitely sold me out. Sorry, go on, Stars.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the better Kirk brother. Let's talk about Sam.
Sam and Kirk. Oh my, Sam and James. Like, what a combo. I remarked that
Sam.
I would watch a Shuttlepod 1 style episode, which is the two of them in a shuttle just bitching the whole way through. I think that would make a very good episode.
Yeah, because like for context, I think the actor's name is like Dan Jeannot or something like that. Yeah. And my first experience with him was he played the main character in Assassin's Creed Unity, and I hated that character. He was awful. Yeah, he was Arno Dornian, and I hated that character. He was an absolute milksop asshole. I hate him. So when I saw him turn up in here, and then it's like, oh, he's just a weirdo. He's just a goofy little guy.'s just a weirdo with a mustache who wants to sit in his lab with his little dinosaur skeletons. Yeah. And get hit by eggs and walk away when Lon tells him to fuck off. He's just a weirdo. And then you get to this episode, and suddenly there's this deep, really compelling well of family drama.
Oh my god!
And he immediately meets Paul Wesley, and it's a cross counter of they're actually kind of equal and opposite forces of personality here. Sam is
they did
a lot
this
less confident, but he's still strong.
They did this in about 10 minutes, with about less than that of screen time. Most of this episode is Uhura, but all this stuff we're talking about with Kirk and Sam and stuff like that was minute part of the episode, and look how much we're raving about it.
But anyone who's grown up with a brother, I don't know if either of you two have got brothers. What you see what they're doing, and you know exactly what's happening. Mm-hmm. You can feel it. It brings back those memories. When I see my brother, we don't talk a lot, but as soon as I see him, it brings back all that stuff. you look at each other in that specific way that
one's expecting
irritates him.
Yeah. No, you pick up the relationship exactly where you left it off. Is exactly what it is. And that bit at the end with fucking Sam and his eyebrows,
so
and
good.
Jim just selling it. You're such a fucking asshole, Jim. And it's I would be annoyed if I was Sam. But here's the thing: is I'm being kind of generous to Jim here, and I'm thinking that maybe he's trying to intentionally push Sam so that he isn't as reliant on his father's approval of what he's doing. He's trying to push him away a bit for his own good. And I'd be interested to see if this comes to anything, because by the time of TOS, by the time of Operation Annihilate, Sam, I don't think is on an active posting. I don't think he's even part of Starfleet anymore, is he?
Don't think so. I think he's gone off to, was it Denver?
Be a civilian posting, I think. Yeah, Deneva Colony. I'm not sure if he's even Starfleet anymore. But he's obviously left the flagship, and it's I'm wondering if they're going to delve into that, and I really want to see more of this relationship, because his and Paul Wesley's chemistry was excellent.
Well, is that going to be because Kirk comes onto the Enterprise and he decides he has to move away?
Maybe.
And that could bring up all kinds of resentment of you couldn't just sit on your own ship and think you had to take the flagship. You had to take the ship that I'm on, when we don't get along and I define myself and have problems. That could be a real big swell of emotion and drama there. I'm really interested to see if they go into that.
What if?
A lot of
here's a. Oh, we're gonna be talking this. This is probably our longest one. But what if, and I've got a feeling this might actually happen. But what if something happens to Una, and Kirk ends up joining the Enterprise crew as first officer, and then that's how he gets the captaincy? Because there's no reason he'd get the captaincy just out of the blue, without, because the Farragut doesn't sound like it's the most amazing ship. He comes onto the Enterprise and goes, wow, look at this, nothing's falling off the walls, EPS grids aren't showing everywhere, this is a luxury, look at this bar. And he comes it's
so if I recall,
captain the Farragut,
he was captain in the alternate episode, but I believe in canon he took command during the Dicronium cloud incident in Tycho 4.
No, I don't think he took command. I think he was just there when it happened, and that was 2 years for
because
canon.
Wasn't he the one who gave the order for the phasers or something like that? Was it
maybe?
or if he
Well, the
done
captain got
expired?
killed, so maybe. I mean, that could
Yeah.
have accelerated his chances to be first officer, and hence why he's the youngest person in the fleet. You know, to assume that position. But yeah, I could very much see them bringing on Paul Wesley.
I could see it.
If it's just me, you know, it can't just be. I haven't even got words for this. It can't just be me, but I'm very impressed. Like I am with this Kirk. It's so good. Let's speed it on because we have spent quite a long time talking about this episode, and Paul Uhura, the focus of the episode, has barely got any of it. Let's talk about best and worst moments, gentlemen. Please, I'm gonna start with Cranky, our guest this week. Your best and worst moment, please.
I think best moment, just for the shock and awe of it, was Zombie Hemmer.
Oh my god, yes.
That was beautiful. That was a beautiful moment.
That
You saw going,
makeup
"Whoa!"
was so good.
Yeah, it looked really good, really, really good. If I had a second moment, it would just be Kirk's moment.
Wait! Don't steal someone else's second.
Let him. Come on. Come on.
I'll stick with Hemmer. Worst moment, I think, is probably, we pressed the stop button, it didn't work. Let's just fire 8 torpedoes and destroy the station.
Let's go over that a bit. I mean, I give props to. We haven't actually spoken the fact that Bruce Horrick came back for the episode, and for people wondering, this was actually filmed before season 1 aired. So, like, this is before there was no fan demands like, "Oh, we love Hemmer," and people are like, "Oh, bring him back." No, this all happened before. This is always planned in the original, but great to see Bruce Horrick come back, and great to see Hemmer again because my heart still beats for Valio Beta, but it was really good, but. Yeah, I have to agree with your last point, with your worst moment, and that, it did seem a bit sudden at the end there, didn't it? All of a sudden,
It was like, we're at the end of the episode, let's just destroy it.
I get that Pike is trusting, like he's trusting of his officers, but I think we spoke about this in the Resurgence thing, Stars, when you were saying trust but verify. Like you know, we need some information rather than just saying like, "Oh yeah, fire all the torpedoes," for just the fact you can sense some episodes like your Deanna Troy.
It seemed a bit far fetched.
It was a bit, yeah. Stars, best and worst moment.
I'm going to be greedy and I'm going to have 2 bests. I don't care.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Stars, why do you get to have 2? Because I've been here every goddamn week and I deserve to get 2 of them.
Yeah.
Damn right. So my first one is just Sam. I love Sam. I think that what this has done is turn William Shatner with a mustache into a compelling character that I want to see every week, and I love it. Like the fact that that's what that character used to be, and now he's a character of substance that I'm invested in, is it's a testament to the strength of a prequel done right. Is you start to care about things that didn't matter before. And the second part is I really want to give props just to like the whole scene between Uhura and Kirk in her quarters, where he's talking about confronting death and not letting death win, and her expressing her grief and what her grief has done, not just in terms of like losing her parents, but losing all of her memories of them to the point where I can't even look at them without feeling just overwhelmed and feeling worse than I did when they died, because I've lost everything before that point as well. And it's like such a strong scene, and it's like it would have been so easy to overplay it, but as I was watching her during that scene, it's like she doesn't break down into tears. It takes her so long for her to actually start crying. She just holds it in, and it's such a wonderful expression of that grief. In terms of worst, I would probably just say that this is kind of a general season 2 thing, but give me more Una. I want a more Una focus. I think we are
had quite a bit of this episode as well.
Yeah, we had a good bit of it, but it was like it's a bit of thing. And I was talking about how it illuminates the character, but I want another character study. I think she's a really compelling character. She's got so many more stories to tell. And like, I would love to see a episode where she gets to come into conflict with Pike, and they don't agree on everything for once. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah. Probably about Patel.
Because like, she's a woman of strong opinions. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Well,
Rebecca Romijn is a great actress.
She really is.
She is. Yeah, I loved her Mystique. Yeah. And yeah, like in general that, and And the bit with the station didn't annoy me as much. I was like, you're basically stuffing aliens into a blender to make your cargo faster. Like, stop, put an end to that. You can always rebuild later. That's what it is. But I
Wait for
can
the dinosaurs to
absolutely see why
die
that
and
would
turn
annoy
into
you.
oil before you burn them.
No, stuff the Velociraptor into your gas tank and hit start. Go. But yeah, I can see why that would annoy you. It doesn't annoy me as much as you guys, but I can totally understand why that would go. Idle, best and worst.
Wow. I mean, you guys haven't even talked about like the fact that Spock turned around and went frustrating, and we had the moment where he met Kirk for the first time. I was so happy that was the moment. Like, it wasn't just a kind of, oh, here's Lieutenant Spock, he's my first officer, a pleasure, Jim, and they just meet like that. No, it's talking about Sam as like, oh, you find him, and Spock just interjects out of the blue, frustrating, and then Uhura is the one to get to meet them, to say, oh yeah, James, this is Spock, and then they sit down and have a speak.
Matchmaker Uhura.
And literally, and then they sit and have a chat, and there's no special fanfare, there's no like massive music, like, oh my god, this is the moment they speak. No, they're just talking about how much they hate Jim's brother. Like,
I mean, they kind of as they shook hands, the way the camera was
there was
done
a
was
bit
kind
of
of like,
poignancy to it.
and you kind of go, yes,
A little bit,
Yeah.
but it was definitely you weren't expecting that Spock moment might as well have been a jump scare in a horror movie, because it was just like, it just came out of like, you didn't expect it to happen. It's just like frustrating, and all of a sudden Spock's there, and you're just like, oh my god, it's happening! It's actually happening. They're meeting, and it was done very cool. I loved that moment.
Very out
It
of the
was,
blue.
and then they just sit and chat, and like, now they're getting to know each other. Now they have the reporter to call back on, and there may have been something, that conversation to go like, are we lovers now? Yeah, we are. My worst moment is I am gonna have
poor
to
Chapel.
yes.
They've only just got together, and now he's met Kirk.
She doesn't know it, but it's already sunk.
It's already over.
That was the catalyst. It wasn't Cyborg. No. It was James Kirk. Of course it was. No, worst moment. I'm gonna have to do the rare thing and take same as Cranky's as well. I think that the fact that Uhura just shouted and went, no, there's aliens in that nebula, and Pike went, fire all the torpedoes, and like agreed with her, and just sort of like, without kind of going like, can we where's the scans? Can we get Sam Kirk up here to verify? And him go, I've got the readings right here. There's alien life. I corroborated it. No, just torpedoes.
Well,
and
yeah,
whatever.
even name a-
disable it.
Yeah, we have to assume that Sam called ahead to the bridge because they were talking over the comms, and they said, "I got the theory." It would have been nice to see Spock just do a scan and
All that,
chew in his filter to see it. That
Just a
would have fixed the problem, I feel.
little extra step to kind of go that before, because
Or like we said in the when we were watching, like Dan said on Discord, if Pike could have said, "Oh, we're too close to the Gorn border, we need to destroy this station. We can't let it go into their hands." Fair enough, go for it, destroy it.
a little extra.
totally.
Yeah. Those there.
Just something.
I'm not going to get too hung up with it. It's not like the worst thing to have happened everywhere.
No.
It was there to expedite the plot. And you got Celia going to just say like, photon torpedoes. She got to go like, I'm cool. Let's do that. And that's fine. I'm not. It's not my worst moment ever, but it's probably like my least favorite moment of the episode. But I think that brings us nicely. Stars. What is our rating criteria for this episode?
Gentlemen, how many of Sam Kirk's emotive eyebrows out of 10 would you like to give this episode?
Yeah, I can go with that.
Excuse me.
I was hoping it was going to be zombie hammers. How many zombie hammers out of 10?
I always like to go for the left field pick.
Yeah, that's good. That's
No,
good.
I can go with that. That's totally fine.
I was thinking also like how many of Uhura's undrugged Saurian brandies, but there we are. That's good. She just took that and left him. That's how put off from Jim Kirk she was. Okay, Cranky, what are you going to... And chat, by the way, chat, if you're there, give us your ratings. We will accumulate them for the final result while we're talking about this. Cranky, what is your rating, please?
I think I'm going to go for... I'm torn between sort of 6 and 7ish. I think I'm going to lean more towards 7.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm going to go... I'll go 6.5.
6.5. Ooh, that's quite... Okay.
But it's partly because it was so much better than the last episode for me. So it felt really good.
What would you have rated... Like, just out of interest, what would you have rated Charades?
2.
Wow. What?
Yeah,
I'm not
I
putting
think
that on the spreadsheet.
maybe 2.5. Maybe 2.5.
Shit, wow. You've become the
I
most
just
hated
thought it was
person
poor.
on the internet right
I just
now.
found it was poor writing. It was a cheap shot.
Okay, Stars.
I'm gonna have to like blow your ass out here, Cranky. I give it an 8.5. This is an easy 8.5 for me. Like, I was kind of tempted to give it a 9, but you guys have kind of talked me down with the explanation of the plot at the end there. But I think this masterfully blends all of the different character development that I wanted to see. It completely sold me on Jim Kirk. I really like where they're taking Sam's character. Uhura's development is excellent. I really liked where they're taking Spock and Chapel, where we're going to see that developing in the background. The only marks against it are the explanation of the plot at the end, the fact that it's a fairly standard Star Trek plot, and the lack of Una development is a bit of a shame. So I feel like that kind of knocks it down a few points, but I felt this is a really good episode. I would absolutely recommend this episode to anyone who likes
me up to a 7. I think I'm going to go for a 7.
Talk to you after a 7.
A 7 of Sam Kirk's with eyebrows.
It was when Star said about Kirk and Sam. It brought back memories of me and my brother.
Best efforts give us an 8.5.
Oh,
so my good friend Marie agrees.
I'm going to give this a 9. For what I said my faults were, it was literally like 2 seconds of the plot. Like that was it. They rushed up there and went fire torpedoes, and then that was it. The rest of the episode was so good. Like it was really good. Like there are, we've spoken about this before. There are some episodes I've sat there and kind of gone, at various moments, I get my phone out and go, oh, what am I doing here? That instant little moment of distraction. There was none of this in this episode. I was invested in everything of Uhura. I was invested in everything that Kirk was doing. Like Paul Wesley was amazing. We had great ensemble cast work. We had some good, for whatever you think of Pelia. I thought Pelia and Una was a great little interaction that linked in nicely with the plot. I feel this was a great episode. It is a classic. I knock it down because of that moment in the end, and also because it is a bit of a Trek trope to have aliens that only one crew member can hear. But I don't mind the fact that the only person that can hear it is the person that is the universal translator of the ship.
The actual communicator.
Exactly, the communicator that is lost in translation. It makes sense. It is
It had to be because it's the only person who could have put together the images into a language.
Exactly. We've got Evans of Wales says a 7 for me. 3D chess and bad deuterium signs always annoys me in Trek, although they were less badly done than usual. Though fair enough. Kern 3 says I occur with a 9, so let me take those and average those quickly. And that gives Jack.
The one thing that you guys said is it was very TNG. It also to me felt very Voyager in the fact that it was they've come across an invisible, the invisible species. They don't know what it is. But they're killing it. It was very Voyager.
No, that makes it. Yeah. No, I get that one as well.
That's not a bad thing. Some of those episodes are quite good.
Yeah.
I think actually, Voyager established a lot of tropes along those lines more than TNG did, definitely.
Yeah, well, it codifies it so often. Yeah.
So chat overall gives that an oh, hang on, no, I put that in score, didn't I? I didn't mean to do that. 1 second. Need to adjust. Chat gave that an 8.1 overall. So this brings us to an 8.2, which I think is very strong. Did I do that right? Let me just check I've done this right on my spreadsheet. Oh, Cranky said 7. That's I was reading chat without thinking about it there. So 8.2, that is great. That is a good, strong Trek episode that I think you don't need a lot. I think the Previously on Trek gives you enough information to know enough. I think that is definitely a strong episode of Trek is one you can show anyone out of order and they'll go, cool, I enjoyed that. And I think this is definitely one of those. Guys, next week is Those Old Scientists. It is the Mariner Boimler coming back in time to visit Pike and crew. If you haven't seen it, there is. Oh, if you don't want to see it because of the clip as well, there is. Because of spoilers, there is a clip out there you can watch of Boimler's interactions with the crew. I cannot wait. Literally cannot wait. Evans, you're saying try not to get overhyped. I kind of am there with you.
Yeah,
I want to temper it a little bit, but.
Yeah.
Look, I've already given one episode this season a 10. I hope that this can break season one's episode. I hope I give it another 10. I want to go.
I really can't wait for it.
Is this, aside from Generations, is this the first, or is this the second proper crossover?
Deep Space Nine did the TOS crossover where they went back.
That's
in time.
true. Okay, so it will be the third proper crossover.
Yeah, I think that's the only other one. Oh,
Flashback.
technically.
Flashback,
Voyager.
yeah. Flashback's good.
Oh yes, with Takei. Yeah.
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 Enterprise did the Tholian thing where they kind of married up, but it wasn't really.
Well, they also had These Are the Voyages, which is also
Yeah.
we don't like to talk about it, but it did happen.
I think in terms of true crossover, it's maybe the third or fourth.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say that this is the first true crossover since the episodes of TNG and DS9 where they were actually having episodes like
Oh,
the one where
Birthright,
Bashir comes to
yeah.
Birthright. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the first proper because in my mind a crossover has to be
Concurrent.
currently airing
Yeah,
shows that are
yeah.
currently pop
Okay.
like that. In which case, this will be the first time since the 90s, which is awesome. I
That's-
love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Give me more.
Definitely. And I can't wait to work out what kind of temporal shenanigans they've come up with to get them there and why they are there. Like, is this a Sea of
I
the Edge
want
Forever
to see
reversed?
Spoimler. I want Spoimler.
Spoiler.
That's what they were calling it on set, my guy. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, I've not watched the clip. I've not watched any
Oh.
spoilers. All I've seen is 2 screenshots that Idol posted on Discord, and that's as far as I've got,
Yeah.
and that's how I want to keep it. I'd rather just watch it fresh.
Too right. Do it.
I don't.
And
want
then you
to
can
get
give
my
it a
hopes
3.
up too much.
This episode's shit.
I love you,
I've
Cranky.
been
I love
screamed
you.
once. I hate Lower Decks. Ugh.
Yeah, fuck Lower Deck. Yeah, nah,
Love you, Cranky.
no, I
Alright.
think
He's
it's going to
gonna
be a good one. I think it's going to
I
be
think
good.
so. Yeah, I agree.
Excellent. All right. Cranky, thank you so much for joining this week. You've been an absolute pleasure. Stars, thank you for coming on this week. Everyone in chat, thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week. I believe we'll be back on Sunday, but keep an eye on the Discord for when we're actually doing the watch along and come and join us. For everyone viewing online, like and subscribe. We need all that shit. It's good, please. We're on the race to get 1,000 subscribers so we can actually put some money into charities. So, no, thank you very much. We will see you soon. We'll actually see you on Wednesday for Timelines Talks. It's coming back.
No.
Yes. Oh, no,
I'll
no.
See us
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
We're actually doing Star Trek Adventures tomorrow. We are indeed.
And Cranky will also be there.
He will. He'll be here tomorrow. I'll be there. Stars will be GMing.
You can't get enough of me.
Damn right.
I really can't. I'm even meeting up with you again. Look at that. I just need more Cranky in my life. Yes, we'll be back tomorrow for Star Trek Adventures, and then we'll be back on Wednesday for Timelines Talks, the triumphant return of episode 91, talking about Khan! And we will see you then. Ta-ra! Live long and prosper.